as women in leadership roles over time, and what the real mission of this documentary.
For the last several years have been talking about are women in power or women in leadership, but nobody has defined it. I remember at age 8, my mom, she asked me what I wanted to be, and I told her I was going to join Greenpeace and save the whales. She's like, well, you can be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist, and sort of slammed the door in my face.
Media platform like the Los Angeles Tribune and shaping that in today's world.
So we have a direct match in our mission and our vision. And right now there's, a statistic that says there's 17 pieces of negative news media to 1 piece of positive.
Most impactful lesson you've learned as a producer?
Maintain eye contact when interviewing another person.
Okay. She is a powerhouse behind the scenes and in front of the camera, shaping the way that we tell stories that actually matter. Dawna Campbell is the executive vice president of the Los Angeles Tribune, and she is also the director of their bold new film division. From executive producing powerful documentaries like The Pillars of Power and Rise of the Lioness, she also hosts her own shows and events that spotlight transformational leaders. She is helping to rewrite the narrative that legacy, leadership, and media can really change the game. Please welcome to the show, Dawna Campbell. Hi, Dawna.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here on Good Morning Joy.
Dawna, I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this conversation for you because I have said it to you before, kind of behind the scenes. You are a superwoman. I mean, even just your travel schedule over the last few days I always say there's got to be a clone of you.
I wish there was.
I bet you do. But you really, we're going to talk about it a little later. Your documentary, The Rise of the Lioness, but about feminine power leadership. And you are the living and breathing embodiment of powerful leadership. Has this always been a part of who you are?
I think growing up, we were always called to do our best. And part of that is just my personality. But I remember a time when my mom was asking me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And if I didn't give the right answers, then, you had to reformulate it. Because it was at the time women could be anything. And so I think through that encouragement, we really got to look at what we wanted to be in this world. Now, what I do today is far from what I was said at age 8. I'll say that. But it was very much encouraged in the household to keep doing more, achieving more, rising continually.
Well, just because you said it, I have to know, what did you want to do before?
Oh my goodness. I remember at age 8, my mom, she asked me what I wanted to be, and I told her I was going to join Greenpeace and save the whales. And that invoked a very angry response.
Okay.
And she's like, well, you can be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist, and sort of slammed the door in my face. So I went outside because my chores were done and I was going to escape. It was a Saturday morning, I remember. And I started skipping down the road thinking, why was that response that way it was? And then went, oh, shiny rock. I think I'm going to travel the world and be a gypsy and palm read. I mean, who comes up with that? So there's my imagination. So I do travel the world. I just don't read palms.
Okay. So basically, in the terms of, manifestation, maybe a little more specificity
yes,
in that,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I love that I'm certain that shaped you into really who you are today. And because a lot of kids, they might have heard that and then not wanted to follow something or be deterred by what it was that was inside. But it sounds like this part of you to help, to uplift has always been who you are?
Always been a part of who I am, ever since I can remember. And it's always about being of service, helping other people, and doing good things in the world, doing kind things in the world. I don't remember a time where that wasn't a part of me.
Yeah. Well, the work that you're doing with the Los Angeles Tribune, you really, as I said, shaping and changing really the media landscape. And what is that like to be part of such a legendary, media platform like the Los Angeles Tribune and shaping that in today's world?
Yes. Part of it is a shared mission and a shared vision. I've always said things like make the world a better place, lifting it up in vibration, more happiness, more joy, more kindness, more peace. And yet, with the Los Angeles Tribune, it's about changing the status quo, giving a voice to the voiceless, and uplifting others. So we have a direct match in our mission and our vision. And right now, there's, a statistic that says there's 17 pieces of negative news media to one piece of positive. So in our lifetime, we want to shift that to at least maybe single digits, if not reversed. So we're really big in the personal development, the professional development side, putting out positive news media, redefining journalism, and having integrity. And so that's really some of our pillars in the Tribune.
And it's so needed. And, I've been following you for a while because obviously we're in similar spaces, for close to 2 decades, 15 specifically with being online, but really trying to change the narrative around, as you're saying, and what we put out there and the things that we're responsible for. And so the Los Angeles Tribune always stood out to me because I saw what you were doing and, these documentaries now. This is a fairly new division?
It is in the last year, and we have 2 major projects going on. The first one is Pillars of Power, the hidden secret behind achieving greatness. And then the second one is The Rise of the Lioness, the power of feminine leadership.
I love the 2 of those. I've looked into them. Well, first we have a shared mutual friend, Dr. Joe.
Yes.
Hallie, yes. And just talking about the pillars of power, what really stood out to me as I, did my research and looked into it was really about how it looks like you're blending science and leadership and spirituality in one. Can you talk about that a little?
Yes, absolutely. It's really about having the spiritual side combining that with the ancient wisdom and having it backed by science. Because in the past, we've had, ancient wisdom, spirituality, principles, law of attraction, law of magnetism, universal truths. And now science is really backing that up with that whole. So it's really about the ancient principles using modern science, fusing those 2 together, but yet each and every person is a leader in that arena that is using both sides of the coin, so to speak. So the third coin, well, there's 2 sides to every coin, heads and tails. And then we have the center point, which is the ridge of a coin. And so each of the people that are cast is that leadership that's bridging the left side, the right side, the heads, the tails, all together.
Well, what's so powerful about it is that you really draw in all different types of people. So not just the spiritual people. You actually have, the science people, the people that are interested in leadership, because really it gives it the science feels like it gives it that extra weight for some people, that validity. Whereas someone who's strictly spiritual will be like, we don't need that. But then the science people are drawn into it. And I love how they all support each other.
Yes, absolutely.
How do you choose the stories or the people that you're going to share?
It was organically happening.
Okay.
I actually showed up in LA to film a person that is not in the film, actually. The day that I landed, they declined the day of their interview. But what that did do, because I flew in a day early, is it opened up the doorway. And who do I run into next is Marie Diamond in the lobby at a hotel. And I'm like, wait, I've been wanting to talk to her. And the very next day, she was in the film studio filming for the movie. And then we just started asking the other people we knew. Dr. Joe Vitale was a yes. We shared our vision with a few others. John Asroff said that he was going to be in the movie, so I got to film him. I reached out to Dr. John D. Martini. These are some of the original cast members of The Secret. And now we are 20 years later. And every person that I've asked that have been in alignment with the mission and the vision of the film is been a yes. And then, of course, we have all of the supporting cast as well with it. And so we have so many amazing people. Sharon Lecter, Sonia Choquette over from Paris, London. We have Ken Honda from Japan. So it is a global feature that will be coming out with all aspects of life.
Has there been, first, it's a all-star stellar cast of just, personalities, personal developments, like all of it. You couldn't get a better group. And it's almost like a reunion first for The Secret of all of them coming together. Actually, let me go with that. Was there a lot of, because I know Dr. Joe has shared about the difference between 20 years ago and The Secret, and even the way, things that he's learned. Was there a noticeable difference maybe in how they all perceive things now than they did 20 years ago?
There is. And I did ask some of those those questions. And I'm going to say, you're going to just have to watch the movie when it comes out to know what
Okay.
that is. It's part of the secret of the pillars of our.
Okay, well, at least I'm right in alignment with
Yes.
what you're going to share with me. So that makes me excited to watch that. Was there a piece of wisdom, though, from one of them that, really stood out, or a few of them that really stood out in filming that?
Well, a lot of them gave me different moments, and I learned so much. Each and every one of them can be a mini masterclass. And even with all of our other cast members that we have in the film, again, I learned something from each and every single one of them. But to give you an example of some of the things that I learned, for Ken Honda, he talked a lot about writing books and how to, instead of give and receive, you receive to share. And in that, the trees are giving, you're receiving the trees to make the paper. Mm-hmm. Well, how do you share that back to the trees? And it's maybe donating so more trees are planted to keep everything in a karmic balance. And that shifted how I thought about things, because we're always saying give and receive, and I'm always giving, I'm not receiving. Well, what if I received so I could share back? And then it keeps everything in a universal balance.
I ask that because you've been in this space. You've been in the personal development, spiritual, you're an author, you're retreat host, speaker, you've done so much. And so a lot of times when you're in this space, or you follow it, you feel like you might know everything. Not that everybody feels, but you've heard a lot. So that's why I was super intrigued by, learning new stuff and still
I think you're always to be a student of your career. And even if you think you got to a master level, there's something more to learn.
Right. What about within the film, you said that there's 5 pillars, right?
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about those pillars?
Absolutely. We identified that there's 5 main pillars, and that is money, or mental wellness, health, spirituality, and relationships. And in each and every one of those, they are all interconnected. They all need to be balanced. If you miss a pillar, then the others might fall down. But we talk a lot about that in the film of what's the most important pillar, why is it an important pillar, but how is it interconnected with the rest of them?
Yeah, what I noticed, in reading about it and really sitting with it, that so many of those pillars, you talk about how when all those come together, that is what a successful life looks like, as opposed to the external achievements. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed is that, I have my own 5 pillars of joy, and a lot of them very much overlap when I saw yours, which I thought was so interesting to see that a successful life to me equals joy. So I saw how they were interconnected. So that was really cool to see what you're doing with that.
I love that. And I'm going to say, even though we identified 5 pillars and we say the word balance, balance does not necessarily mean equal. Because, when we think, we have to have 20% of our day in each of these categories, that would be equal, and we have to do it every single day. Well, that's not true. Sometimes you're going to be on a work trip and it's going to be 24/7 working, and yet you don't have the family life. And then when you come home, you go on to vacation, and then it goes into that family life. So it's really about keeping it in a universal balance instead of compartmentalizing it. And that balance might shift and change for each person.
I think that's so important for people to hear that right now, because I bet there's a lot of people that just went, because there's so much pressure to do it all and to balance it all. And it's almost like a relationship where, people are saying you have to be 50-50. Well, that's great. But some days it might be 70-30 during different times of our lives and what that looks like.
Exactly.
So it's kind of just working out the math to make sure you're getting 100% of those pillars, but all at different times.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, I love that. So you mentioned that each one of those pillars is going to become its own film?
Yes, it will be. And we are casting now for the Money Matrix and the rest of the relationship film, the spirituality film, and all of the rest. So it's more of a movie series in that way versus we all know what TV documentaries are in those series. I'm just doing it with movies. So yes, each one will have the main overall movie, and then each pillar will have its own breakout.
I know it's going to sound like an obvious question, but I think it's important to talk about, why do you think that this is so needed right now, these kind of stories?
Because it's the heart of where we are. And, the Pillars of Power is designed to be an overall film, but then we get to do the deeper dive on each of the 5 pillars of what this really means. And we're at such a time of transition in our world with everything that's going on globally. And then people talk about the age of Aquarius. And so it's not just, with the countries and with what's going on in politics, but also what's happening universally and astrologically. And so it's at the right time. It's in the right alignment to really share some universal truths in a different way. And we have all of these new generations. We have alphas and we have Gen Zs and we have millennials. And now it's time to really share our wisdom handed down, just like they did in the ancient times, except we're using the modern form of movies.
And movies are such a great way for people to learn because they're, it's kind of almost like the wisdom is snuck in through the entertainment aspect, which is, and especially for our younger generation. I found interesting, recently I was at a conference and I was talking to the very young generation, which I don't even know who are the late, is it Alpha? Is that the latest?
The latest one, yes.
Okay, I was talking to a bunch of content creators and I mentioned, about the work that I was doing in positive media, and they all said the same thing, which surprised me so much, to be honest. They were like, that's so needed right now.
Yes.
And just to see the younger generation being open to that, and it makes what you're doing, not that you needed more validation, but, really needed right now by all generations.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely true.
With the Los Angeles Tribune specifically, what is the big vision as you continue to just create massively? Like, you guys are everywhere.
Right. We're very much in the personal branding space, helping people elevate their personal brands to grow them and their businesses and give them that media support, as well as in corporate branding as well, and redefining how corporations are sharing their messages. So it's that positive news media, branding, integrity, redefining how journalism really is, and doing things differently. So we're not just getting a piece of paper, report this. No, everything that we have done, we have curated ourselves.
There's such a responsibility, I feel, for anyone in journalism in this media space, because it's being consumed so much. And so what you're doing and just what you all are creating there, I'll keep saying it because I'm so inspired by it, because the responsibility and the accountability that we hold to help form, shape minds and hearts and everything. Yes. Is that something that drives you?
For me personally, yes, because if I can showcase somebody's story and it's in a positive light and they're elevated and then it goes out through media and everybody reads it, then I've done my job, because they feel uplifted by reading the article or the story or seeing the movie or seeing the film. And it's just bringing all of those pieces together, because that's what completes my mission. I don't necessarily have to do it through, say, the healing work that I used to do, or speaking on stage, which I also do in transforming other people's lives, because it can be written, it can be spoken, it can be done cinematically. So any way we can share and get out people's stories is what we're doing.
Yeah, and you're doing such a great job at it. A couple of years ago, I think at this point, maybe the Surgeon General had put out, the loneliness epidemic, and really made a call to the media, to positive media, to really put the stamp out there. And that's why what you all are doing is so needed right now. And what I'm excited, not that I wasn't excited about the Pillars of Power, but I'm excited to talk about the rise of the Lioness, because you are focusing on women leadership.
Yes.
Share with us about that and what you have seen as women in leadership roles over time, and what the real mission of this documentary.
So what's fun about the rise of the Lioness, the power of feminine leadership, is everybody for the last several years have been talking about what feminine leadership is, or women in power, or women in leadership, but nobody has defined it and what that is. So I've been putting together an all-star cast again.
Are you starring in it?
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see. The youngest person I have is 21. The oldest person I have is in their 80s. And women across the ages that have been put in leadership positions, so we can define what feminine leadership is, what it is not. Is it different than masculine leadership? Does it have anything to do with gender, or is it how we use our brain? How are we really going to define this? And so in putting that out there is a little bit about the history of women throughout leadership, but also how do women show up in the various sectors for leadership? Because there's a lot of amazing women who have been in different careers and in different pathways that weren't open to women before, and yet they were some of the first ones, some of the pioneers when it wasn't accessible. And so it's fun listening to a lot of their stories and getting their insight on what it took for them to become to where they are now today.
Are you able, I know we're going to have to go see it.
Yes, we'll have to see it.
But can you give us any sort of insight or something that really either surprised you or moved you, something that you learned from interviewing these amazing women?
One of the things that I learned, and this was across many women in many different industries, for the ones that I have spoken to and have already pre-filmed, was that when awards were given out, they were, so say there's one person, she was in the automotive industry, and it would be like salesperson of the year. They would give out the award. Well, the year that she won it, they changed it. Saleswoman of the year. And they're like, wait, leadership is just leadership. Whether you're a man or a woman, why are you now separating it out that it's woman leadership instead of just leadership? And that really surprised me because that came from a very masculine viewpoint that they were giving the awards, but then they were adding in words to accommodate. And I don't know the reason behind it, but I thought that was a very interesting principle that the award is the award, but they were changing it to make it a woman award instead of just the award.
As if it couldn't stand on its own to just be part of that.
And that I heard stories of that time and time again. So it made me really think.
Which makes the women in leadership roles even more impactful and more inspiring because they have defied really all of this, the things that are against us all, to be honest, that we have to work through and still show up and still be able to change communities and change corporations and all that, you know, they're doing. Are you able to share a few of who they are in the film? Or is that a surprise?
It'll be a surprise. You guys will start seeing some of that rolling out in the next while.
You make like a person inside, like me, like going, come on, like the little child in me is like, all right. So I'll let that slide. What do you hope this particular film does?
Change how we look at women in leadership positions and really showcase us for following our intuition, following our brilliance, because we have the capacity in certain ways in thinking to bring different viewpoints and different insights in. And it's not just the direct step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 linear type of thinking. It's really, how do we look at this, the picture as a whole? Was the whole thing communicating, and what's the best decision? And can we change society and how we do things and really define what that women leadership is all about?
Do you think that we will change things?
Oh, I hope so. I'm on a mission to do it. And and of course, so is the Los Angeles Tribune.
Right.
With, showcasing women and their brilliance and what they have and with what they do.
Well, I think more and more brilliant women are in the spotlight, and I think that there's no way around not being able to stand out because women are spectacular.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you're going out of your way to highlight and show them. And I think that's so important. And kudos to you all for doing that. I can't wait to see that.
See, I think one of the things that I've learned throughout the years is that we see all these great companies or these great missions, and yet there's been a lot of women behind them, and they were never given the credit for it. But if it wasn't for them, that person that was in the front wouldn't have been successful. I have so many examples. There's a few.
NASA, I think I forgot what movie it was. Was it women? Yeah, and they were the ones behind that made it all happen.
Yes. And it's the same in a lot of different industries I uncovered as I've been interviewing women. So now it's time to claim or have credit given back to the ones that really built the systems.
Well, in a way to highlight you right now, you won the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, and I just want to have that stand out.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty massive in and of itself. And I say that because I don't know if that young girl from Greenpeace would have seen that for herself.
No, it wasn't. It was just being of service. And the U.S. Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award is for service. It's the highest civilian honor that can be given through the office of the president. And I was honored with that. And I would have never have thought or guessed in a million years that would have been something. So things are changing.
Yeah.
We are being recognized. now it's time to go.
Absolutely.
200%.
200%. As you were just saying that, though, I really did just flash back. Like, you really did set the stage for yourself with the green, because you said at 8 years old that you wanted
Yes.
to be of service, and here you are being recognized for that
Yes.
service. So I just want to honor that young girl
Thank
and
you.
every girl that is out there right now that has dreams and can look at you and what you're doing with the Los Angeles Tribune and what you've done in your own personal career, and to be like, that is possible for me, and I can continue keep going for what it is that I dream
Yes,
of.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always say, if I can do it, so can everybody else.
Yes,
So.
yes. And what, in your experience with this film and being just not just a woman, let me take that back, and being a woman, what do you see and doing the powers of pillars of power? I need more coffee. What do you see a difference in leadership and in men? And I mean, I imagine that there is.
There is
but
differences, yes. And
Mm-hmm.
even what we see today in today's time, and even with the younger generations, isn't how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
I think from a genetic standpoint, as I was growing up and maybe the generations before me, there was very much a survival mechanism that was happening. And in that, it's, like during the Great Depression, you had to save everything in case you needed it. And that's how my parents grew up. And I think we moved from a survival mechanism into more of the emotional state, because myself and people, and even some that are younger, really wanted to have those emotional connections and have an emotional connection with our children, because we didn't have that with our parents because it was based on survival. And now with children, I see they want the emotional connection, but they also want the mental stimulation. So we're just evolving over time throughout history, culturally, at least here in the United States, that's what's been shifting and happening. It happens naturally, I believe, as well.
Where do you see the Los Angeles Tribune and the film division, everything that you're doing in 5 years from now?
That is a great question, because we're slated to start producing 3 movies a year.
Wow.
That's not a small feat.
So you are going to have clones of you.
We're going to have, we're building clones. And so with that, and with all the other films we have slated, and then of course we have private films that we do with others, really growing and magnifying that, but we're also growing our brand ourselves. And everything that we do for our clients, we also do for ourselves as a company, and to grow and to really become more media dominant, to have that ability to share and showcase that many more stories, that many more people, with our live and virtual events. How can we be of service? How can we make it a better place? How can we change that status quo? So we're under rapid growth as well, as we have been for the last couple of years, and making that impact.
And you are making that impact. And the fact that you're putting a spotlight on so many voices, so many people that are changing the world and showing up and doing transformational work just shows the power of the Los Angeles Tribune, of you and everyone. I'm about to ask you some really fun questions.
Okay, good. I'm ready.
But
Those ones were hard.
Yeah, were those hard? But on a personal level, before we get to those, just because we are on Good Morning Joy, what is
Yes.
something that secretly, that not a lot of people know about you, that brings you joy?
When I have a connection with another person, and it's real, it's live, it's authentic, whether they're from my past or somebody that I have just met, brings me incredible joy and peace to have that connection. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to speak to my son. I don't get the opportunity to speak often. He's actually out on military deployments, so those are few and far between. So that was incredible for me to experience that. But then when I think about it, the day before, a friend who lives in an area I'm in Montana is like, I'm going to be back. Let's go play and go do this. And it's like, absolutely. So it's about having all of those fun connections and getting to know people on that intimate level.
That's actually one of my pillars of joy.
Oh,
It's
see?
connection to each other. So right on brand. Yeah.
There we go.
There you go. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you some of these questions. And first thing that comes to your mind, you'll just go for it.
Okay.
So the first thing you do every morning before you start bossing the universe around.
I make coffee.
Perfect. Light or dark?
It's very dark. It's in a French press.
Oh,
It's a whole process, but I'm setting the intention of the day as I make it.
Okay, bold. Bold and dark, I'm coming over. If your life had a theme song right now, what would it be?
Oh, a theme song that I did it again.
Will you sing it for us as a
No.
bonus? Okay. A leadership quality that you admire in people.
Honesty and integrity.
Oof. So, one word that describes how you want people to feel after watching your films.
Loved.
Most impactful lesson you've learned as a producer.
The most impactful lesson I've learned as a producer: maintain eye contact when interviewing another person.
Okay, it's almost like when you cheer someone. Keep the eye contact. Very good. If Rise of the Lioness had a soundtrack, what's the anthem that plays when the credits roll?
Oh, that's a good one. I'm not very good with songs. I'm going to say that.
Okay.
I don't remember songs, but I can hear things in my head. And I can probably take out my phone and pull up Instagram to say
I'm the
what
same
song it
way.
was.
Okay, so all that came
That's
to mind for you. So I'll just add, what about I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. What's your go-to I need a sign from the universe thing? Are you numbers? Are you feathers? Like, what is the thing?
Mine go-to, I hear things. I just know it's a feeling inside. It just is.
Okay. You can have dinner with one of your pillars of power expert. Who is it?
Oh, who would I want? Oh, that's hard.
I know, because then it makes the others feel bad, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And I think I probably have had dinner with
All of them. Okay. All right.
But if I could have, I'm coming back around, well, for all of them, because
Okay.
I'm doing different things with them.
Okay. What's one daily habit that keeps you grounded?
One daily habit that keeps me grounded: I love to walk or hike
Me too.
outside. I have to go outside every day.
Every day.
I would live outside if I could.
I would too, but there's too many bugs though, which is just part of outside. I know.
Sometimes
I
it's
know.
hot.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I don't know that I have a best piece, but the one that was most changing was what I shared earlier. Receive so you can share.
And if you weren't doing media and film, what other path might you taken?
Oh, I actually have an international healing practice. So I would have just stayed there. But healing comes in all forms, and I found a way to do it in movies.
Amazing. And last question, if you could put a message on a billboard for the entire world to see, what would it say?
You are loved and so are they.
Dawna, thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Joy and for
you.
all that you are doing and uplifting and changing the world.
Thank you so much for having me here.